On the morning of June 28, 1914, a 19-year-old boy ate a sandwich. He was standing outside a small deli on a street corner in Sarajevo. The mission had failed. His friends had scattered. He had given up. He was just eating a sandwich. And then a black automobile turned onto his street, made a wrong turn, stopped, engine running, less than 5 feet in front of him. In the back seat sat Archduke Franz Ferdinand, heir to the Austro-Hungarian Empire. The man Gavrilo Princip had spent months planning to kill. What happened in the next 30 seconds would start a war that killed 20 million people. And it almost didn't happen at all. To understand why a teenager with a pistol could shake the entire world, you need to understand the world he was standing in. It is 1914. Europe is a powder keg. For decades, the great empires, Austria, Hungary, Germany, Russia, Britain, France, have been building alliances, stockpiling weapons, and watching each other with barely concealed hostility. Everyone is ready for a war. No one wants to admit it. All they need is a reason. Into this world, Gavrilo Princip was born in 1894, in a small village in Bosnia. His family was so poor, his parents gave him away as a child to an older brother in Sarajevo, hoping the city might offer something better. He was thin, quiet, small for his age. He read everything he could find: poetry, politics, revolution. Bosnia in those years was under the control of Austria-Hungary, a vast empire that ruled over dozens of different peoples who did not want to be ruled. The Serbs, the Bosnians, the Croats, many of them dreamed of a different future, a South Slavic nation, free, their own. Princip dreamed of it too. He was small and sick. Tuberculosis was already working its way through his lungs. He had been rejected from the military because of his size. He knew he probably didn't have long to live. He wanted to do something that mattered. And then he found the Black Hand. The Black Hand was a Serbian secret society. Nationalists, radicals. They believed that violence could rewrite history. And they had a target. Franz Ferdinand, the Archduke of Austria-Hungary, was planning a visit to Sarajevo, a public parade through the streets of the city, an open car, a fixed route, a known date. It was, the Black Hand decided, an opportunity. They recruited 7 young men, trained them, armed them with pistols and grenades. Gavrilo Princip was one of them, the youngest, the sickest, possibly the most determined. The morning of the assassination, the 7 conspirators spread out along the Appel Quay, the main route the Archduke's motorcade would travel. They stood among the crowd, ordinary-looking, waiting. The cars appeared at around 10 in the morning. 4 vehicles, Austro-Hungarian officials, police outriders. And there, in the 3rd car, in full military dress, sitting beside his wife Sophie, Franz Ferdinand. The first conspirator let the cars pass. He lost his nerve. The second did the same. The 3rd conspirator, a young man named Nedeljko Chabrinović, did not. He pulled out his grenade, knocked the cap off against a lamppost to arm it, and threw it at the Archduke's car. The driver saw it coming. He accelerated. The grenade bounced off the folded-back convertible roof of the car and exploded under the vehicle behind it. 2 officers were wounded. Several bystanders were hurt. Franz Ferdinand was unharmed. Chabrinović swallowed his cyanide pill and jumped into the nearby river. The cyanide was old. It only made him vomit. The river was 4 inches deep. He was pulled out, arrested, and beaten by the crowd. The motorcade sped away. The remaining conspirators, including Princip, stood in the crowd and watched the cars disappear. The mission had failed. Princip walked away from the quay. He didn't run. There was nowhere to run to. He wandered through the streets for a while, and then, because he was hungry, because the morning had been a disaster, because sometimes a person just needs a moment to stop. He went to Schiller's Deli on Franz Josef Street. He stood outside, eating, thinking about what came next, probably thinking about how they had failed. He had no way of knowing that the story was not over. That history, in its strange and indifferent way, was not finished with him yet. After the grenade attack, Franz Ferdinand had continued to his official reception at the town hall. He was shaken but composed. He reportedly told the gathered officials, "So you welcome your guests with bombs." After the reception, he made a decision. He wanted to visit the officers who had been wounded in the explosion. At the hospital, a new route was arranged, different from the original parade path. The motorcade set off again. But the lead driver, a man named Leopold Leuker, had not been clearly informed of the route change. He turned onto Franz Josef Street, the original route, the wrong route. An official in the car immediately called out, "Not this way, you've taken a wrong turn." Leuker stopped the car. He began to reverse. The car stalled right in front of Schiller's Deli, less than 5 feet from where Gavrilo Princip was standing. For a moment, perhaps 2 or 3 seconds, neither man moved. Then Princip stepped forward. He drew his pistol. He fired twice. The first bullet struck Franz Ferdinand in the jugular vein. The second struck his wife Sophie in the abdomen. Sophie died within the hour. Franz Ferdinand held on a little longer. His last words to his wife as she slumped over in the seat were, Sophie, don't die. Stay alive for our children." She was already gone. He died 11 minutes later. Princip was seized by the crowd before he could turn the gun on himself. He was 19 years old. He was beaten, arrested, dragged away. The sandwich was still on the ground where he had dropped it. What happened next moved with a terrible mechanical speed. Austria-Hungary blamed Serbia for the assassination. They issued an ultimatum. Serbia refused some of the terms. Austria-Hungary declared war. Russia mobilized to defend Serbia. Germany declared war on Russia. France was pulled in through its alliance with Russia. Germany invaded Belgium to reach France. Britain declared war on Germany. In 37 days, the entire continent was at war. 4 years later, when it was over, 20 million people were dead. 4 empires had collapsed: the Austro-Hungarian, the Ottoman, the Russian, the German. The map of Europe had been torn apart and redrawn from scratch, and the seeds of a second, even more catastrophic world war had already been planted in the humiliation of the peace treaty that followed. Historians debate whether the assassination truly caused the war, or whether the war was inevitable regardless, and Sarajevo was simply the match that lit a fire already built. It is a fair debate, but no one debates what happened on that street corner. As for Princip, he was too young to be executed under Austro-Hungarian law. He was sentenced to 20 years in prison instead. He was held in a fortress in Theresienstadt, the same place that would later become a Nazi concentration camp. The conditions were brutal. The cell was damp and cold. The tuberculosis that had been eating at him for years accelerated. He lost his right arm to the disease. He weighed around 40 kilograms when he died. He never saw the war he had started. He never saw what his 2 bullets had done to the world. He died in April 1918. 7 months before the war ended, he was 23 years old. There is a corner in Sarajevo today, Franz Josef Street, near the Old Deli. If you visit, you can find a small marker on the pavement. It shows the footprints of where Gavrilo Princip stood. Just footprints. On an ordinary street corner. In a city most people had never heard of. And I think about that sometimes. About how the largest events in human history so often hinge not on grand plans or great men, but on small mistakes. A driver who wasn't told about a route change, a car that stalled, a hungry boy who stopped for something to eat. The lesson of Sarajevo is not really about Princip. It is not really about the Archduke. It is not even about the war. It is about how fragile the world is, how the distance between peace and catastrophe can be as small as one wrong turn, one missed instruction, one stalled engine. History doesn't always wait for the powerful. Sometimes it just takes a wrong turn and stops in front of whoever happens to be standing there.